Hey guys, so this is the second case of downloading files. So this time, in the previous video, we learned um, to create an app that allows a user to download data files, but this time it's reports, right? So on the right side, you have this app, right? Does some analysis and generate a report, right? So here's an important concept that I introduced to you in the intro video, and that is because our markdown file uses the current folder. In other words, the same folder that our markdown file is stored in as the working directory. When the app is deployed, um, the app will fail unless if you have this R markdown file stored in a temporary directory. So again, um, you need another file, okay, another file in addition to app.r file, and that is the R markdown file. You need to have that. I'll show you, right? I'll show you what R markdown file you need to generate a report, and also you need to have this R markdown file in a temporary directory. So in order to do that, temp file function will create temporary R markdown file in a temporary directory, and file.copy function will replace that temporary file with the R markdown file in the folder. Okay? All right. So that is the function that we need, in addition to the download button function that we've seen in the previous video. And also, we need this R markdown render function. So it takes an input, which is report path that we created up here. Report path goes as an input for the first argument, all right? And then it takes the parameters. Parameters in this case is this n that is collected from the slider input function in the app. And this new dot environment function guarantees a clean slate when it does the data analysis, right? So this render report function is a customized function, right? It's mainly the render function here, right? And that is called in this R function here from the call R package, right? So this render report function that was defined here, right? And it's followed with the values for the arguments. So the report path, which is the temporary directory, right, is provided for the input, the value for the input, and the file that is the output, and then the parameters that is defined here, right? And these parameters are basically the input number of n from the slider function that was collected from the user, right? Okay, so let's try this in our studio. So this is, what's the number of section? It is 9.2.3. So let's save this as 9.2.3. Um, let's delete and shiny app, right? So we need, in the UI, we need a slider input and download button, right? So that's pretty simple. So slider input function. So the range is from 1 to 100. The default value is 50. The label, number of points, and then that's input ID n, right? And download button, input ID is report. Oh, download button, that's output ID, right? And generate report, that is a label on the button. All right. So slider input, and input ID was n, and what was the label? The label, number of points. Number of points, and the default value was 50, and the minimum was 1, maximum was 100, and download button, output ID was download, and the label was, ID was report and generate report. Okay. ID, you can make anything you want, but let's follow the textbook example, download report, right? Okay. So let's run to see if we did everything correct. right? It's exactly same, right? And we need to put this code to create to add this report.rmd file in a temporary directory. So first thing we need to do is we need to have, so let's close this app. We need to have this R markdown file, parameter, parameter, parameterized, 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 parameterized. All right. So parameterized. Yeah. So we need a parameterized R markdown file in this folder where we have this app.r file. Okay. So that R markdown file can be downloaded from here. So go to textbook and just before the case study. So there's this link. Okay. So right here. So report.rmd. Um, so this is the R markdown file that we need. So you can see that there's a parameter n. Default value is NA, and the analysis that's being done is making this plot, right? So N here is an input for um, random selection, right? Random selection. We have two random selection functions here, right? And making a plot of that randomly selected data series. So we will have one plot with a two data series. Okay, so we can download this, download raw file. And so from the downloads, I'm going to cut this and then go to desktop, mastering Shiny folder, chapter 9 folder, code along 6, and I'm going to save it here, right? So that's what I meant. So now we have a report.rmd, right? And so here we need to create this report.rmd in a temporary folder, temporary directory. Okay. So here, okay. So copy report.rmd to a temporary directory. This is necessary for deployment, right? So we need this temp file, right? Temp file and file extension. We want to provide the file extension of RMD. So file extension of RMD. So if we were to just run this, so that's what it's produced, right? So the file name that's produced is this, and the rest here is the directory, the address where this. This is a temporary directory, right? And we want to save this to report path, right? What is it? Yeah, report path. So save this as report path alt dash, right? So this whole thing is saved under this name report path. And now we want to copy this report RMD file that we downloaded from GitHub, right? In this, we want to copy this in this report path. So to do that, we need file copy function, right? So if you look at it, so take this report.rmd that's in our current working directory, right? And paste it in this temporary directory and then overwrite true, right? So here from report.rmd, right? So that should be quotation and then to report path and then overwrite true, right? Yeah, so that's what we have. So now we have this report.rmd in a temporary directory, as well as this current working directory, right? Now, what we want to do is to create this customized function, render report. So Hadley recommends to have this render function outside the server for more robust outcome, right? So this render report function will be used here uh, in call our package R function, right? And that is for the content function right here. All right. So let's do this. All right. So output and output ID is report alt dash and download handler. Again, two arguments here is file name and content. So file name, we name it report.html. HTML because we want to produce output on a web page, right? But if you want your output in a different format, file type, then say PDF, then change this to PDF. And also on your R Markdown file, change the output format here. So in this case, PDF, like that. But because we want a web page, let's revert back to web page, the same here, HTML. And the second argument here is content, and it's a function that takes file as a variable. And first thing we want to do is define parameters, alt dash, and parameters. We only have one parameter here, n. Okay, so we need to define this, and and so we want to put them in list function because most of the time um, there will be more than one parameters, right? And equals input, and input ID here is n, right? So this n here is a parameter, this n here is an input, right? So n equals input $n. Yeah, so whether one parameter or not, we will need this list function here. And then we need a render function, right? So the render function here is R markdown package render function. So in render function, we have input, output file, and then there's a parameters argument and environment argument, right? So let's hit tab input. We want to provide this input right here, right? So report path. That's what we want. So that's the input. Hit tab output file. Output file is this file variable, right? And we are providing this report.html, right? Git tab, and then this parameters argument we need, and we're going to provide this that we collected from the user. Git tab and environment. So we want to make sure that this operation takes place on a clean slate. So provide new environment. Git tab. For parent argument, we provide global environment. All right. So this is slightly different than what we see in the textbook because I want to have a minimum code as possible. So let's run this, right? And so let's select 100, download report. So let's keep the file name as report and download it in the downloads folder. It's save, replace, and go to downloads folder. There you go, a plot of 100 random points, right? So if we were to change input to 18, download report, save, replace, go to downloads, there's 18 random points, right? Um, Now, in the textbook, Hadley recommends this rendering operation takes place in a separate R session using R function from call R package. So for that purpose, so he recommends it for greater robustness. All right, so let's do that. So let's close the app. If you were bring up the documentation for call R package and R function, so you can see that the first argument is a function, and the second argument is arguments, and we provide values for the arguments of the function, right? So that is what we need here. All right, so we are going to take this out, okay? And then call our function. The first argument is function. We need to provide a function. And second argument is arguments. And here in the list function, we're going to provide values for the arguments of the function that we're going to provide. So the function here is, let's name it render report, alt dash function. Let's create function that takes input, output, and parameters, right? And then in the body of the function, we paste this what we just had right here, right? So I cut and paste. So now here, it's going to be input because that is the variable input. And for output file, it's the second variable output. And parameters, we named the variable the same, so we can keep that as it is. And now we're going to provide this render report function that we just created, the custom function. We're going to provide it here. Now we have input output parameters argument in this render report function. So we're going to provide a value here, input. So previously it was report path. Remember that? Report path. And for the second argument here, second argument output, that is file. Third argument parameters, right? And we're going to provide this parameters that stores this n, right, that we collected from the user. All right. So this is what Headley recommends for greater robustness. So let's run this app, and it's supposed to do the same. 25 points. Download report. Save. Replace. And go to downloads folder. Yeah, plot of 25 random points. Great. Well done. I will see you in the next video.